Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And today we have another Italian designer lamp on the bench. Actually, I don't think it's going to be spending too much time on the bench because it's just too big. I have to come up with some other way to handle this. But what we have is 3 pieces of chrome-plated pipe, more little pieces of chrome-plated pipe connecting them together. There is a hickey socket, the top and bottom of these 2 pieces of pipe, and one hickey socket right here. Here we have a switch, which is jammed and doesn't turn, so we'll be replacing that anyway. But it's a single circuit switch, so basically all 5 lights come on at once, they all go off at once, and how boring is that? Now when a lamp won't fit the bench, I build a bench to fit the lamp. I'm going to start with this socket in the switch for no particular reason. Now, as I said, this is a 1 circuit switch, all the lights on, all the lights off. And my intention right now is to put a 3-way switch so we'll have a little more variety to the lighting, because honestly, this kind of lamp is not for reading, not for playing cards, not for anything but just decoration. So having more variety in your decorations got to be a good thing. The plan is to install a 3-way switch, so we'll have 3 different modes of light. I'm thinking to have both these come on, then these come on, and then all come on at the same time. This is a decorator lamp. It's not the kind of thing that you would want by your chair while you're reading or anything like that. So since it's strictly for ambiance and atmosphere, having different types of light would certainly help with that. I've made a lot of fixtures for floor lamps, table lamps, all sorts of stuff like that. And even though it does seem like it might be a lot of work for a one-time job, I doubt I'll ever see another lamp like this again. It more than makes up for with how easy it is to be able to work on the lamp without it rolling around on the bench. The original wiring on here is simple and elegant. There's only actually 2 wires in the whole lamp. And what they've done is just simply skin the wire back, put it under the screw terminals, and then run down to the next socket. Kind of like the way Christmas tree lights are made. Of course, that's why we only have all lights on, all lights off. I'm going to have to add a little bit more wire than that to come up with the plan I want. Now, I've run into a little bit of a snag on the first one. I was hoping to be able to wire it without taking all of this stuff out. But these are hickey sockets. And this little piece right here is the hickey. The socket sits on it like that. With a little small screw holding it down. Now, the new sockets are like this. And unfortunately, the little screw does not fit the threads in that hole. And what that means is I've got to replace all these. And I'm pretty sure that if I try to reach down inside this pipe and start twisting on this little piece of sheet metal, they're all going to get twisted up like this. So the bracket just has to come out. A little extra work, but it actually makes the job a little easier on the other side. Now, one of the reasons it's so hard to get something like this off is there's no really easy way to hold on to it. unless you have this specially shop-made secret underground laboratory clamp that holds this piece of pipe nice and tight. It allows me to get a grip on the hickey here, and it will come right off. I always put a little bit of blue thread lock, sometimes known as Loctite. I call it blue goo because it's an adhesive, and when it sets up, this will be incredibly tight, even though I haven't put that much force on it. Because all of this hardware is very lightweight, and if you tighten it to the point to where it can't come loose, you're more than likely to break these little small threads. Now we've come to a step that makes a difference between a good job and a mediocre job, and that is tinning the wires. Now, this kind of wire is made of many strands. It makes it easy to bend. It won't take a set, so you can curl it around something tight, and then when you pull it back out, the wire straightens out. Very good things to have in a lamp wire. But when the lamp wire is going to be put under a screw terminal, it will spread out and get loose. So the solution to that is called tinning the wires. And that's where you just put a piece of, or a little drop of solder on the tip of the wire. It makes all those wires into one. And you just have to get it hot, let the solder flow on it. And only at the tip actually, but you can do the whole thing if you want to. Then you'll see we have a brass wire, brass screw and a silver screw. We also have, the insulation has a smooth side and a ridge side. And the ridge side always goes to the silver screw. You curl it around it in a clockwise direction so that when you tighten it down, it pulls the wire under the screw. Now this is more critical in a table lamp, which this might be, but the reason this is done like this is so that if the ridge wire is connected to the silver screw, it will be connected to the socket shell. And if you happen to be fumbling around in the dark and you're looking to turn a light on and there's no bulb in the socket, if you touch the shell by accident, you won't get shocked if it's properly wired. You would actually have to go all the way down to the bottom and touch that terminal in the bottom, and the light would have to be turned on before you get popped. How often this happens in real life, I don't know, but apparently it was a big enough deal, they had to make a rule about it. Now carefully take the screw and drop it down into the hole. Get the socket centered over the top of the hickey. And once it's lined up, tighten it down. And we're ready to start our reassembly procedure at the top of the lamp. Now the final decision on the bulbs and the sequence of lighting is that all the up bulbs will become on at the same time, all the down bulbs come on at the same time, and that means we have to have a separate wire for each socket, which will complicate our wiring a little bit. And all these wires have to go through these silver pipes. So there's a specific sequence that has to be followed in order to make sure you don't have to do everything 3 or 4 times before you finally remember every step. I'll take one wire and start it in this pipe and just push. The insides of these pipes is fairly smooth and the wire will just come right out. Very little trouble. Do this again on one of these other pipes and we're ready to move on to the middle piece. Now putting the 2 sockets in the middle pipe brings up a new problem, is that all the wires pass through these side pipes, and I'm going to have 4 wires and only 3 pipes. And here's where I have to keep everything in order. Now 2 wires will fit if they're folded flat against each other, but there's no way I'm going to be able to push it like I have the others, because going around that second bend is just too much friction. So the solution is a fishing wire that I can push through here. Hope I can get it around the other bend. And there we go. Now this is a 2-handed job, really more of a 3-handed job, where I have to keep these wires flat and push, and when it gets too tight, then I'll pull. There we go. Now we come to the fun part, and I'm not being totally facetious about that. There is a good bit of satisfaction at the point where you get to where you see that you've got all the wires correct. But before we totally assemble this thing, I'm going to test my connections and make sure they're right before I have it all put together. Now most lamps and chandeliers can be totally assembled and then wired. This is not one of them. It has to be assembled and wired at the same time. So that's why I'm going to make a test run and make sure that all of the connections are in the correct place before I start soldering anything and putting the whole thing back together. Now to make things easier and reduce eye strain while I'm trying to work and talk at the same time, I have color coded all the wires. And this starts with the power cord here. The ridge side I've painted white, the smooth side I've painted black. And the first thing I'm going to do is gather up all the ridged side wires together, because they all get connected right here to the power cord. And that gets these wires out of the way and leaves it a lot easier to see what we're doing. Get them twisted together and temporarily put a wire nut on them. Now, the red wires that I've colored here, they all go to the up light. There's 3 up bulbs, I got 3 wires. So that's how I'm going to keep them straight. On my switch, I have a red wire and a blue wire. So conveniently, I can stick my red wire there and another connector. And I can gather up my 2 blue wires and the blue wire from the switch. And the last one to be connected, the black wire from the switch to the smooth wire on the power cord. Now I'm going to go round up 5 light bulbs and see if all this stuff works. Testing. 1, all up. 2, all down. 3 all at the same time. All connections in the secret underground laboratory are soldered, and then they are sealed with shrink tubing, which is a special kind of plastic which, as the name implies, shrinks. Put a little heat to it, it draws up nice and tight, and it makes a coating that the ends of the wires can't poke through. This is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. I appreciate you sitting through this video about this quite elegant Italian designer lamp. We'd really appreciate it if you would like to subscribe. Comments are welcome. I do respond to all. And I hope to see you again next week in the next video.